My beloved brothers and sisters, Islam teaches us to be kind, patient, and forgiving, but Islam never asked you to allow anyone, including family, to harm your heart. Some people confuse patience with silence and forgiveness with accepting toxic behavior. But the Prophet never tolerated injustice, disrespect, or emotional harm, even when it came from those closest to him. There comes a point when you must protect your heart, your dignity, and your mental peace, because Allah does not want you to be oppressed. He does not want you to be disrespected. He does not want you to carry pain that others keep causing, whether it's a family member, a friend, or anyone else. Toxic behavior is never acceptable in Islam. You can love people and still have boundaries. You can forgive them and still distance yourself. And you can be patient without allowing your soul to be destroyed. Your kindness should not become a doorway for someone else's cruelty. Islam forbids oppression even if it comes from those you love. Islam teaches mercy, compassion, and patience. But these virtues are never meant to justify oppression. Many people tolerate harmful behavior from loved ones because they believe staying silent is piety. But in Islam, oppression is forbidden no matter who commits it, whether it comes from a stranger or from your own blood. Islam forbids oppression, even if it comes from those you love, does not allow you to accept injustice. Your relationship with him is more important than your fear of disappointing people who mistreat you. Sometimes the hardest oppression to recognize is the kind that comes from those closest to you. Family members may use love, culture, or status to justify their harm, expecting patience to cover their wrongdoing. But Allah sees every injustice, and He never commands you to remain silent when your heart and dignity are being crushed. A believer is patient, yes, but not at the cost of allowing harm to continue. When oppression comes from loved ones, it confuses the heart. You begin to question your worth, your intentions, even your sanity. But Islam brings clarity. Oppression is a sin, not a misunderstanding. A toxic behavior is wrong, even if the person doing it is your parent, sibling, spouse, or relative. Your duty is to honor them, but honoring does not mean tolerating cruelty. You are allowed to step back, set limits, and protect your heart. Allah does not want you to carry wounds that others refuse to stop causing. He does not want your kindness to become a doorway for someone else's destructive behavior. Oppression from family can feel heavier because it comes wrapped in expectations. Respect me, obey me, don't speak up. But respect in Islam is never a blank check for someone to harm you. Respect must be mutual and boundaries must be honored. Too often people weaponize religious teachings to silence the oppressed. They tell you patience means enduring mistreatment, forgiveness means accepting abuse, and family ties mean allowing emotional harm. But this is not Islam. This is misuse of religion. The Prophet never told a believer to remain in harm's way. Emotional abuse is still abuse. No matter who does it stood against injustice, even when it came from his own tribe, his own family, his own people. Oppression in any form, emotional, verbal, financial, or physical, is forbidden in Islam. You are not obligated to endure insults, manipulation, humiliation, or disrespect just because the person is related to you. Allah is more just than to command you to tolerate a pain that destroys your well-being. You can honor family with distance, with boundaries, with dignity. Staying silent in the face of injustice is not patience. It is self-harm. When oppression comes from loved ones, many people stay because they fear causing conflict or being judged. But protecting yourself is not a sin. Harming someone is. Allah will not question you for leaving a toxic environment. He may question you for enabling oppression by staying silent. Your heart is an amanah from Allah, and you are responsible for safeguarding it even from your own family. Allah condemns oppression so strongly that He declared it forbidden upon Himself. If the Creator refuses to wrong His creation, how can He ask you to accept wrongdoing from others? Islam is a religion of justice, not blind obedience to harmful behavior. When someone hurts you intentionally, the wrong belongs to them, not to you. You are not guilty for setting limits. They are guilty for crossing them. Many families normalize toxic patterns because it has always been this way. But Islam did not come to preserve harmful traditions. It came to correct them. You are not commanded to keep repeating the cycles of pain your parents or grandparents endured. Islam gives you the right to break generational harm even if others don't understand. Allah knows your intention and He supports the oppressed, not the oppressor. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Help your brother, whether he is the oppressor or the oppressed." How do you help? The boundaries are Sunnah. The Prophet set them clearly oppressor by stopping them from committing oppression. This means that challenging harmful behavior is not disrespect. It is mercy. It helps the oppressor recognize their wrongdoing before they accumulate sin. You are not harming them by setting boundaries. You are helping them reform. When you tolerate oppression silently, you unintentionally allow it to grow. Just as injustice spreads in society when left unchallenged, it spreads in families when ignored. Your silence may protect temporary peace, but it destroys long-term well-being. Islam teaches balance, patience with kindness, but firmness with injustice. This balance protects your heart and preserves your dignity. The emotional injuries caused by family can be the deepest because you expect safety, not harm. But Allah sees every tear, every frustration, every moment you stayed silent to keep peace. He knows the battles you fought alone, the disrespect you endured quietly, the pain you swallowed to remain polite. And He promises justice either in this world or the next. Nothing you experience is overlooked by Him. If someone's behavior pushes you away from peace, from confidence, from self-worth, or from Allah, then distancing yourself is not disobedience. It is protection. Islam never required you to sacrifice your mental health for the comfort of others. You can love someone and still choose space. You can forgive someone and still refuse to accept repeated harm. This is not rebellion. It is wisdom. A believer stands against oppression because Allah Himself stands against it. Even within families, justice must prevail. The Prophet ﷺ was corrected his loved ones gently but firmly when they were wrong. He never allowed emotional manipulation, harshness, or disrespect to be normalized. His example teaches us that true love involves accountability, not blind tolerance. Oppression from loved ones often lasts for years because victims hope things will change on their own. But Islam teaches that oppression ends when you take a stand with calmness, wisdom, and dignity. You are not asked to fight with forgiveness. Does not mean allowing repeated harm, anger, but you are asked to speak with truth. Oppressors thrive in silence, but their power weakens when boundaries are established. Setting boundaries is not un-Islamic. It is a form of self-respect and a form of protecting your heart, which is a trust from Allah. Boundaries teach others how to treat you and teach you how to protect your soul. The Prophet set boundaries with people he loved deeply. You can too. Islam does not forbid distance. It forbids harm. When you stand up to oppression kindly and firmly, Allah places strength in your heart. You begin to see that you are not weak. You were just conditioned to accept what you should have rejected. You realize that your silence was not patience, it was fear, and once Allah strengthens you, you discover a courage you never knew you had. Allah promises relief to the oppressed. The moment you choose truth over fear, dignity over silence, and justice over comfort, Allah opens doors you thought were closed. You feel lighter, freer, calmer. The emotional chains begin to break. This freedom is not rebellion. It is the mercy of Allah guiding you toward a healthier life. Oppression from loved ones is one of the hardest tests, but also one of the greatest opportunities for spiritual growth. It teaches you about self-worth, boundaries, resilience, and trust in Allah. You learn that it is possible to love someone without allowing them to harm you. You learn that protecting your heart is not selfish. It is obedience to the one who created it. And when you finally understand that Islam forbids oppression in all forms, even from those you love, you begin to walk with a new kind of strength. A strength rooted in faith, not fear. A strength that allows love without losing dignity, patience without accepting harm, and forgiveness without tolerating injustice. This is the strength Islam wants for you, the strength to honor your heart, protect your peace, and stand for justice with the same courage the Prophet ﷺ taught. Emotional abuse is still abuse no matter who does it. Emotional protecting your peace is an act of faith. Not disrespect. Abuse is one of the most overlooked forms of harm because it leaves no bruises, no scars, no visible wounds. But Islam recognizes emotional pain just as deeply as physical pain. A harsh word, constant criticism, silent treatment, manipulation, and disrespect. These can break the heart in ways physical harm never could. And just because the person causing the pain is a family member does not make the abuse acceptable. Wrong is wrong, no matter who does it. Often emotional abuse is dismissed because the abuser hides behind roles. A parent, a spouse, a sibling, an elder. They justify their words by calling it love, discipline, or advice, while the victim slowly loses confidence, peace, and self-worth. But Allah does not accept cruelty disguised as care. The Prophet was the most gentle in speech, even when correcting others. Emotional harm is not a sign of authority, it is a sign of injustice. Emotional abuse drains the soul in ways that exhausted bodies can't express. A person may carry trauma silently for years, questioning their worth because someone close to them constantly belittled them. Islam does not ask you to normalize this pain. The one who hurts you emotionally is accountable before Allah, even if they are beloved to you. Emotional wounds are real wounds, and Allah is the witness to every one of them. Some people tell you to be patient with emotional abuse, as if patience means accepting mistreatment. But patience in Islam never means allowing your dignity to be crushed. Patience means responding with wisdom, not tolerating injustice. The Prophet himself walked away from situations where his heart was harmed, and he never instructed anyone to remain in an outrow. Love with wisdom environment that destroys their spirit. Protecting your emotional well-being is not a lack of sabr. It is obedience to Allah. Words have power. The Prophet said that a person may speak a single sentence without thinking, yet it becomes a cause of destruction. Emotional abusers often speak carelessly, not realizing the weight of their words. They joke about your insecurities, mock your struggles, or belittle your dreams. This is not family talk. This is not just how they are. This is abuse, and Islam does not excuse it. Emotional abuse harms your connection with Allah because it leaves you feeling unworthy, unloved, and broken. A heart constantly hurt by people struggles to feel hope, but Allah reminds you, do not weaken and do not grieve. Emotional abuse may dim your spirit, but Allah never allows it to extinguish your worth. He sees through the lies spoken about you, and He knows the truth of your heart, even when others twist it. One of the worst forms of emotional abuse is manipulation. When someone uses guilt, fear, or shame to control you, they make you feel responsible for their anger, their sadness, or their problem. They twist religion to silence you, but Islam forbids psychological manipulation. No one has the right to control your emotions or force obedience through fear. Your heart belongs to Allah, not to those who misuse their influence. Emotional abuse in the name of respect is still abuse. Some family members demand obedience through cruelty, believing their age or status gives them the right to mistreat others. But the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said the best of you are those who are best to their families. If someone uses their role to justify emotional harm, they are not following Sunnah. They are contradicting it. Respect in Islam is earned through kindness, not intimidation. Sometimes emotional abuse comes from jealousy or insecurity within the abuser. They criticize your achievements, dismiss your efforts, or undermine your happiness because they feel threatened. Islam teaches us to protect our hearts from envy, not weaponize it. If their emotional wounds bleed onto you, it is not your fault, and it is not your responsibility to fix them. You can show compassion without allowing them to destroy your peace. Repeated emotional abuse destroys your confidence. You begin to doubt every decision, apologize for existing, and shrink yourself to avoid conflict. This is not the life Allah wants for you. You were created with honor. Your voice matters. Your feelings matter. Your heart matters. Islam commands dignity for every soul, and emotional abuse is a direct violation of that dignity. Emotional abuse often hides behind silence. The abuser refusing to speak, withholding affection, or ignoring your presence to punish you. This silent treatment is a form of control, a way of making you feel invisible. But Allah sees you even when people pretend not to. You do not need someone's acknowledgement to feel valued. You need Allah's recognition, and He never turns away from a heart seeking Him. It is common for victims of emotional abuse to blame themselves, thinking maybe I'm too sensitive or maybe I deserved it. But please understand, harshness is not justified by your reactions. Abuse is not caused by your feelings. It is caused by their behavior. Islam never blames the oppressed. Your sensitivity is not the problem. Their cruelty is. Emotional abusers often rewrite stories to make themselves look innocent and make you look guilty. They twist conversations, deny their actions, and portray you as the one causing problems. This gaslighting is one of the most damaging forms of emotional abuse. But Allah is Al-Haq, the truth. He sees what others try to hide. When people distort reality, Allah restores clarity. You are allowed in Islam to distance yourself from those who emotionally harm you, even if they are family. Distance is not disrespect. Silence is not rebellion. Space is not a sin. It is protection. Protection of your mental health, your spiritual stability, and your emotional well-being. Allah does not ask you to stay close to those who damage your heart. When you walk away from emotional abuse, you are not being harsh. You are honoring the heart Allah entrusted you with. The Prophet said that Allah does not show mercy to those who do not show mercy to others. A person who repeatedly hurts you emotionally is committing a sin, not exercising authority. Keeping ties does not mean tolerating harm. It means maintaining decency without sacrificing yourself. Healing from emotional abuse begins with recognizing that what you endured was real. Your pain is valid. Your emotions are valid. Your exhaustion is valid. Healing does not begin with blaming yourself. It begins with acknowledging the truth. And the truth is no one has the right to break your spirit. Not friend, not spouse, not parent, not sibling. Allah honors the heart that has been hurt. The Prophet said, "Beware of the dua of the oppressed, for there is no barrier between it and Allah." Emotional suffering is oppression. Your tears are noticed by Allah. Your silence is heard, and your endurance is rewarded. You may feel powerless before people, but your dua makes you powerful before Allah. A woman or man suffering emotional abuse often thinks leaving or setting boundaries will cause problems in the family. But the real problem is the abuse, not your response. Islam calls for peace, not quiet suffering. Allah does not want your faith to be crushed under the weight of someone's harshness. Protecting yourself is an act of courage and an act of faith. And when you finally understand that emotional abuse is still abuse, even if the abuser is someone you love, your heart begins to heal. You realize you are not weak for hurting, nor wrong for stepping back, nor sinful for protecting your peace. You rise with dignity, guided by Islam's justice and Allah's mercy. Emotional abuse may have wounded you, but it cannot define you because Allah sees your worth, stands with the oppressed, and heals the hearts that others break. Boundaries are sunnah. The Prophet set them clearly. Many people misunderstand kindness in Islam. They think that being gentle means allowing others to walk over you, and being patient means accepting treatment that breaks your spirit. But the Sunnah teaches the opposite. The Prophet ﷺ was the kindest man, yet he had firm boundaries. He honored people with goodness, but he never allowed disrespect, injustice, or emotional harm, not from family, friends, or anyone else. Boundaries are not un-Islamic, they are prophetic. The Prophet taught that every person has rights, emotional, spiritual, and personal. He never allowed anyone to violate those rights, even his closest companions. If someone raised their voice, he corrected them. If someone crossed a limit, he addressed it immediately. He showed us that setting boundaries is not ego. It is protection of dignity. Islam commands kindness, but it also commands justice, and justice begins with knowing your limits. Boundaries are necessary because the heart is an amanah from Allah. You are responsible for guarding your peace, your faith, and your emotional well-being. When you allow people to constantly disrespect you, drain you, or manipulate you, you are harming the amanah Allah gifted you. The Prophet ﷺ is not stung from the same hole twice, meaning learn from harm and protect yourself from repeated pain. Boundaries are wisdom. Many people assume that setting boundaries means cutting family ties, but Islam never asks you to cut. It asks you to balance. You can maintain ties without allowing abuse. You can show respect without tolerating disrespect. You can forgive someone and still distance yourself to protect your heart. Even the Prophet ﷺ distanced himself from people when their behavior was harmful while still treating them with fairness and dignity. Boundaries are part of emotional sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ was very intentional about his personal space. He did not allow people to invade his privacy, show disrespect, or make him uncomfortable. When someone crossed a limit, he corrected them gently but firmly. This shows that emotional comfort matters in Islam. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to step away. You are allowed to guard your heart. The Sunnah teaches us that boundaries are a form of self-respect. When you allow everyone access to your emotions, time, or energy, you become drained and broken. But when you set limits, you preserve your strength. Even in worship, Allah set boundaries, certain times for prayer, certain times for rest. If Allah establishes boundaries in His commands, how can we believe it's wrong to establish boundaries in our relationships? One of the clearest examples of prophetic boundaries was how the Prophet addressed harmful words. He never ignored disrespect. He corrected it immediately and calmly. He taught his ummah not to accept speech that humiliates, belittles, or wounds. Words matter, and so do limits. When someone's behavior harms your heart repeatedly, you are allowed, even encouraged, to speak up. Boundaries protect you from manipulation. People who lack emotional maturity often use guilt, religion, or family pressure to control others. But the Prophet ﷺ, he warned against burdening people unfairly. He taught that Islam should never be used as a tool to harm someone emotionally. When people try to guilt trip you for protecting yourself, they are misusing religion, not following it. The Prophet emphasized balance in relationships. He said, "Right, give everyone their right." This means you give kindness, but you also give yourself protection. When you prioritize everyone else and neglect yourself, you violate this balance. Boundaries restore fairness. They remind others that your feelings matter and your limits deserve respect. Even in marriage, Islam commands boundaries. A spouse cannot demand blind obedience, emotional sacrifice, or silence in the face of harm. The Prophet treated his wives with respect, consultation, and gentleness. He did not allow harshness or bullying. This teaches that healthy love requires boundaries. Without limits, relationships become imbalanced and harmful. Islam teaches that your heart is valuable, too valuable to hand over to those who do not honor it. Boundaries ensure that only people who respect you have access to your inner world. The Prophet ﷺ, who all closeness to those who uplifted him and kept distance from those whose presence caused harm. That is Sunnah. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is prophetic. Some people misuse the concept of obedience to demand more than Allah allows. Parents, elders, and relatives sometimes cross emotional limits, believing culture gives them the right. But culture is not Islam. Islam forbids oppression even from those we love. You are obligated to be respectful, not to accept harm. Boundaries teach others that your faith does not permit mistreatment. When you set boundaries, people who benefited from your silence will resist. They may call you disrespectful, distant, or ungrateful, but their reaction reveals their intention. They wanted control, not connection. The Prophet faced resistance too when he restored boundaries in society. But he persisted because justice matters more than comfort. You must do the same gently but confidently. Boundaries are an act of mercy for yourself and for others. They protect you from burnout, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. They also teach the other person discipline, accountability, and self-awareness. When you allow someone to harm you repeatedly, you are enabling their sin. When you set limits, you guide them away from wrongdoing. This is mercy, not rebellion. A believer with boundaries is not cold. They are emotionally healthy. They love deeply but not blindly. They give generously but not endlessly. They forgive sincerely but do not tolerate repeated harm. The Prophet maintained this balance effortlessly, and he encouraged us to do the same. Boundaries keep your kindness pure and your heart protected. Boundaries help you worship Allah with a clean heart. When you allow people to violate your peace constantly, your salah becomes heavy, your dua becomes filled with pain, and your heart becomes distracted. But when you protect your emotional space, your worship strengthens, you feel lighter, more present, more connected to Allah. Protecting yourself is a spiritual act. Sometimes setting boundaries means walking away not out of anger but out of self-preservation. The Prophet walked away from hostile people, toxic environments, and harmful situations. He never forced himself to stay where his dignity was compromised. Leaving is not abandonment, it is wisdom. Distance can be love when closeness causes destruction. Boundaries also teach you that you don't owe everyone access. You owe everyone kindness but not your energy. You owe everyone respect but not your vulnerability. You owe everyone good character, but not unlimited emotional availability. Islam teaches excellence, not self-sacrifice, to the point of emotional death. A believer with boundaries reflects true tawakkul. They trust Allah enough to let go of relationships that harm them, to distance themselves from situations that drain them, and to say no when their heart can no longer endure. They know that what Allah has written for them will never require them to destroy themselves emotionally. Healthy limits show trust in Allah's justice. And when you finally embrace boundaries as part of the Sunnah, you begin to live with clarity, confidence, and peace. You learn to speak with fairness, love with wisdom, and protect your heart with dignity. You stop confusing silence with patience and tolerance with piety. You realize that following the Prophet means being gentle and firm when necessary. Boundaries do not make you less loving. They make you more aligned with the wisdom of Islam. Forgiveness does not mean allowing repeated harm. Forgiveness in Islam is a virtue that brings immense reward, but it is never meant to trap you in cycles of pain. Many people misunderstand forgiveness, thinking it means allowing someone to hurt you again and again. But the Prophet taught forgiveness with wisdom. Forgive the heart, but protect the soul. You can forgive someone without giving them the power to harm you a second time. Islam frees your heart, not destroys it. Forgiveness means letting go of anger, not letting go of boundaries. Allah does not ask you to erase your memory, ignore red flags, or blindly trust someone who has shown a pattern of harm. You can forgive for the sake of Allah and still choose distance for the sake of your safety and emotional stability. There is no contradiction in that. In fact, it is wisdom and emotional maturity. When someone hurts you repeatedly, the issue is no longer your ability to forgive. It is their refusal to change. Islam teaches accountability. The Prophet would forgive, but he also corrected, warned, and distanced himself from people whose behavior was harmful. Forgiveness is an act of mercy, not an invitation for others to continue their wrongdoing. You are not obligated to tolerate what Allah does not accept. Forgiving someone does not erase the consequences of their actions. It simply frees your heart from bitterness. You can release the emotional burden while still acknowledging the reality of what happened. Islam teaches justice alongside mercy. Allah forgives, but He also holds people accountable for repeated transgressions. Your forgiveness should not come at the cost of your dignity or well-being. Repeated harm often happens because the victim silently forgives without setting boundaries. The abuser interprets forgiveness as permission, believing they can continue hurting without consequences. But the Prophet ﷺ said a believer is not stung from the same hole twice, meaning learn from experience. Protect yourself from repeated pain. Forgiveness does not mean being naive, it means being wise. True forgiveness does not require reconciliation. You can forgive someone and still choose never to allow them back into the same space in your heart or life. The Prophet ﷺ forgave many people who harmed him, but he did not keep all of them close. He forgave for Allah's sake, but he protected himself and the community from further harm. Your emotional safety is not optional. It is a responsibility. Some people weaponize forgiveness to pressure you into staying silent. They say, if you forgave me, you wouldn't bring it up, or a good Muslim forgets the past. But forgetfulness is not commanded in Islam. Fairness is. Allah does not expect you to pretend something never happened. He expects you to heal without hatred, but also to protect yourself from repeated injustice. Forgiveness without boundaries invites more harm. Forgiving someone does not mean trusting them immediately. Again, trust must be rebuilt through consistent actions, responsibility, and sincere effort. If someone repeatedly breaks promises, lies, manipulates, or disrespects you, trust should not be given freely. Islam teaches that trust is earned. Even companions of the Prophet ﷺ had to prove their sincerity before being entrusted again. You are not wrong for being cautious. Sometimes the most compassionate form of forgiveness is distance. Allowing someone to continue harming you is not mercy for them or for you. It enables their sin and destroys your peace. By stepping away, you stop the cycle. You create space for healing and reflection. You protect your heart from repeated wounds. Distance becomes a form of self-respect and a means of stopping injustice. Forgiveness heals your heart, not the abuser's behavior. It allows you to move on emotionally, release resentment, and find peace with Allah. But it does not magically transform someone into a better person. Growth requires effort on their part, not just forgiveness from yours. You cannot heal someone who refuses to acknowledge their wrongdoing. Your emotional freedom does not depend on their transformation. People often say, but they are family, forgive them. Yes, Islam encourages forgiveness, but it never instructs you to tolerate ongoing harm. Family ties should be preserved with kindness, but they should not be used as chains to bind you to toxic behavior. Allah commands justice even among family members. Forgiveness is beautiful, but boundaries are necessary. Both are part of a healthy Islamic life. Your heart is not a punching bag for someone else's frustrations. Your soul is not a dumping ground for their anger. Your emotions are not toys for them to manipulate. Forgiveness should not cost you your self-worth. When you forgive someone, it should make you lighter, not leave you feeling more trapped. Forgiveness is freedom, not captivity. Some people mistake your kindness for weakness. They assume that because you forgive easily, they can hurt you freely. But forgiveness is not weakness. It is strength. It shows that your heart is larger than their cruelty. But strength also means knowing when enough is enough. Islam gives you the wisdom to forgive and the courage to walk away when necessary. Forgiveness does not mean expecting someone to become who they once were. Sometimes relationships change forever because trust was broken. You can forgive them in your heart, but keep them at a distance in your life. The Prophet forgave people, but did not always restore the same closeness. Forgiveness cleans the wound. Boundaries prevent it from reopening. When someone repeatedly harms you, the question is not why can't you forgive? It is why won't they stop hurting you? The responsibility lies with the one who causes harm, not the one who tries to heal. Islam protects the oppressed, not the oppressor. Your forgiveness does not erase their accountability before Allah. Forgiving someone allows you to heal, but creating boundaries allows you to stay healthy. The first frees your heart from the past. The second protects your heart from the future. Without boundaries, forgiveness becomes an open door for more pain. Islam teaches us to close the door when harm becomes a pattern, not a mistake. Forgiveness is an act of worship when done sincerely. But worship should never come through self-destruction. Allah does not require you to harm your heart in order to please Him. He wants you to forgive, but He also wants you to value yourself. You are His creation. Your soul deserves protection just as much as your relationships deserve mercy. You can forgive someone quietly without announcing it, without reconciling, and without giving them access to hurt you again. Allah sees what is in your heart. Your forgiveness is between you and Him. People do not need to witness it, and they are not entitled to the same level of trust afterward. Forgiveness and boundaries can exist together harmoniously. When you choose to forgive someone who harmed you, you rise above their behavior. You show strength of character and purity of heart. But when you choose to avoid repeated harm, you show wisdom and self-respect. Islam honors both qualities. Forgiveness cleanses your heart. Boundaries protect it. Together, they make you stronger than the pain you endured. And when you finally understand that forgiveness does not mean allowing repeated harm, you reclaim your emotional freedom. You forgive with grace, but you protect your heart with courage. You walk away from cycles of pain without carrying resentment. You choose healing over suffering, growth over guilt, and dignity over repeated wounds. This is true Islamic strength, a strength rooted in mercy, justice, and self-respect. Protecting your peace is an act of faith, not disrespect. Protecting your peace does not mean you are being cold, distant, or disrespectful. It means you finally understand that your heart is an amanah from Allah, and you cannot allow anyone, even family, to break it continuously. Many people confuse silence with obedience and endurance with faith, but Islam teaches balance. The Prophet ﷺ protected his inner peace by avoiding harmful people and unhealthy situations. Choosing peace is choosing what Allah wants for your soul. A believer's heart is like a delicate lantern. It shines beautifully when protected, but it flickers when surrounded by constant negativity and harm. Protecting your peace means shielding that flame from those who blow it out with harsh words, toxic attitudes, or emotional manipulation. Islam does not ask you to keep exposing yourself to people who dim your light. It asks you to preserve the heart that Allah loves. Many people feel guilty for distancing themselves from those who hurt them, especially when those people are relatives. But protecting your peace is not abandoning your duty. It is fulfilling it. You can still be respectful, still offer salams, still care for their needs without allowing them to enter the private space of your emotions. Islam permits kindness with boundaries, and Allah rewards intention more than proximity. Your peace affects your worship. When your mind is constantly troubled, when your heart is overwhelmed, when your soul feels suffocated by people's negativity, your salah loses focus, your dua loses energy, and your ibadah loses sweetness. Protecting your peace helps you worship Allah with a clear heart. This is not selfishness, it is spiritual responsibility. The Prophet said, "Do not harm and do not allow harm." This principle alone shows that Islam prioritizes mental and emotional well-being. You are forbidden from harming others, and equally forbidden from allowing harm to be done to you. Protecting your peace, therefore, becomes a form of obeying Allah's command. You are not distancing yourself out of pride, but out of obedience to divine wisdom. Some people accuse you of being sensitive when you protect your peace. But sensitivity is not weakness, it is awareness. It means your heart still feels, still notices, still responds. Allah created you sensitive so you would recognize harm before it destroys you. People may mock you for drawing boundaries, but Allah honors you for valuing your emotional safety. Peace is one of Allah's names, as-salam. When you protect your peace, you are protecting a gift that comes directly from Him. You cannot allow anyone to invade that gift with their bitterness, jealousy, criticism, or anger. Just as you protect your wealth, your home, your children, you must also protect the tranquility Allah placed in your heart. Protecting your peace means refusing to argue endlessly with people who refuse to understand. The Prophet ﷺ taught that the strong one is not the one who defeats others in argument, but the one who controls themselves. Sometimes the greatest strength is found in stepping away, not fighting back. Silence can be dignity. Distance can be wisdom. When people consistently drain your energy, disrespect your feelings, or damage your self-worth, staying close to them is not patience. It is self-neglect. Islam never praises self-neglect. The Prophet cared for everyone, but he did not allow toxic individuals to have emotional control over him. Following his example means learning when to walk away. Protecting your peace is not rejecting people. It is rejecting their harmful behavior. You can love someone and still say, "I cannot let you hurt me." You can value family and still choose emotional distance. You can pray for someone and still avoid their toxicity. Islam does not require you to choose between compassion and well-being. You can have both. A toxic environment slowly destroys a person's iman. When you are constantly insulted, blamed, or manipulated, your mind becomes tired and your heart becomes heavy. This heaviness affects your spiritual journey. Protecting your peace removes the obstacles that suffocate your soul. When you protect your peace, you protect your path to Allah. Sometimes protecting your peace means saying no, not because you are rude, but because you are human. You cannot be everything for everyone, and you cannot sacrifice your well-being to satisfy people's expectations. Saying no can be an act of courage. It shows you respect yourself enough to avoid what harms you. There will always be people who misunderstand your boundaries and interpret them as disrespect. But Allah knows your intention. You are not responsible for how people choose to interpret your efforts to stay emotionally healthy. You are responsible for guarding your heart, your faith, and your emotional stability, and that requires courage, not explanation. Sometimes the loudest noise in your life is not from the outside world, but from the people closest to you. Protecting your peace means turning down that noise not out of anger, but out of necessity. You need silence to reflect, to heal, to reconnect with Allah. Peace is not found in chaos. It is found in moments of intentional stillness. Protecting your peace helps you become a better person. When you are constantly on edge, constantly hurt, constantly overwhelmed, you cannot give your best to Allah or to others. But when your heart is peaceful, your kindness grows effortlessly, your patience becomes deeper, and your character becomes more refined. Peace makes you more compassionate, not less. Islam teaches moderation in everything, including relationships. You are not meant to carry people's emotional burdens endlessly. You are not responsible for fixing those who refuse to change. Protecting your peace means accepting your limit. You are a servant of Allah, not a savior for people who harm you. Peace is not the absence of people, it is the presence of Allah in your heart. Protecting your peace allows you to hear His guidance more clearly. When your heart is drowning in arguments, negativity, fear, and guilt, you cannot hear the whispers of divine wisdom. Distance from harm creates closeness to Him. Sometimes the biggest threat to your peace is your own fear of disappointing others. You tolerate abuse, disrespect, and emotional harm because you fear conflict. But protecting your peace means overcoming that fear. It means believing that Allah is more important than people's approval, and your emotional health is more important than their temporary satisfaction. Protecting your peace is also protecting your children. When they see you endure harm silently, they learn that toxicity is normal. But when they see you set healthy boundaries, they learn dignity, courage, and self-respect. Your peace shapes their future. Your strength teaches them what Islam truly stands for. People are quick to judge your boundaries because they benefit from your lack of them. When you stop allowing them to drain your peace, they become angry, not because you did wrong, but because you stop tolerating their wrong. Protecting your peace exposes their true intentions. This clarity is a blessing. Protecting your peace means accepting that some relationships are seasonal. Not everyone is meant to stay forever. Allah removes people to protect your heart, your faith, and your future. Letting go is not betrayal. It is obedience to His wisdom. Peace begins when resistance ends. You do not owe everyone explanations. Silence can be an explanation. Distance can be an explanation. Your emotional well-being does not need to be justified. Allah sees the battles you fight and the peace you protect. People see only what touches them, not what protects you. When you protect your peace, your dua becomes stronger. You begin to speak to Allah from a place of clarity rather than confusion. Your supplications become more heartfelt because your heart is lighter. Protecting your peace enhances your connection with the one who gave you that peace in the first place. Protecting your peace is not about running away from responsibility. It is about refusing to carry burdens Allah never asked you to carry. You are not responsible for people's reactions, emotions, or refusal to change. You are responsible for your sincerity, your obedience, and your emotional survival. When you choose peace, you choose wisdom. Wisdom means knowing when to speak and when to be silent, when to stay and when to step away, when to forgive and when to protect yourself. The Prophet embodied this wisdom. Following his footsteps means practicing peaceful boundaries. Harsh people often label peaceful people as weak, but Allah knows strength is in restraint, not aggression. Protecting your peace takes courage most people do not understand. It means refusing to respond with cruelty, refusing to engage in toxic cycles, and refusing to let other people's darkness dim your light. Protecting your peace also means protecting your tongue. When you distance yourself from toxic environments, you prevent yourself from reacting in anger, saying hurtful words, or losing control. Peace keeps your character intact. It helps you maintain your dignity when others lose theirs. One of the greatest gifts Allah gives a believer is a peaceful heart, but He also gives us the responsibility to protect it. Just as you lock your home to keep it safe, you must lock your heart from those who repeatedly harm it. Peace is not passive, it is intentional. People may call you changed when you protect your peace. They are right. You did change, you grew wiser, you became braver, you learned your worth, you stopped tolerating harm. Change is not a flaw, it is growth, and growth is beloved to Allah. Protecting your peace allows you to forgive more easily. Because forgiveness becomes a choice, not a requirement for survival. When you are no longer surrounded by harm, your heart becomes softer, lighter, and more capable of mercy. Peace makes forgiveness sincere. Peace is not selfish. It is healing. It is clarity. It is protection. The Prophet Sam often withdrew to quiet places to reflect, to pray, to reconnect with Allah. His solitude was not abandonment. It was spiritual preservation. Protecting your peace follows his example. When you protect your peace, you are able to love people from a healthier distance. You stop loving out of fear, dependence, or guilt. You love out of sincerity, purity, and balance. Peace purifies your love. It makes it gentle, not desperate. Protecting your peace also means protecting your time. You begin to invest your energy in things that uplift your Quran, learning meaningful relationships instead of draining conversations and toxic patterns. Time becomes a blessing, not a burden. Some people will never understand your need for peace because they have never experienced it themselves. They live in chaos and expect you to adapt, but Islam does not require you to live in emotional storms. Allah wants calmness for your soul. Protecting your peace means refusing to apologize for your healing. It means no longer shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. It means choosing environments that nourish your heart instead of breaking it. This is not rebellion, it is restoration. A peaceful heart worships Allah with sincerity. Stress, trauma, and toxicity cloud the heart, making worship heavy. But peace clears that fog. It opens the door for deeper iman, softer tears, and stronger faith. Protecting your peace strengthens your spirituality. Even the angels pray for the believer who protects their heart. Allah sees your effort to avoid harm, your intention to choose goodness, and your courage to distance yourself from negativity. These actions bring blessings into your life that loud sacrifices often cannot. Protecting your peace also means protecting your hope. Toxic people drain your belief in the future, in yourself, in Allah's mercy. But once you remove their influence, hope grows again. You begin to dream with clarity, pray with confidence, and trust Allah with ease. Your peace is part of your iman. Anything that consistently destroys your peace is lowering your spiritual state. Islam does not ask you to ignore this. Islam asks you to address it, manage it, and create boundaries around it. This is not disrespect, it is devotion. And when you finally realize that protecting your peace is an act of faith, everything changes. You stop chasing approval, stop tolerating harm, Stop betraying yourself to keep others comfortable. You begin to live with dignity, strength, and serenity, knowing Allah sees your intention, protects your heart, and blesses your journey. Peace becomes your worship, your shield, and your silent victory. My dear brothers and sisters, Islam teaches compassion, but it does not ask you to sacrifice your well-being. Your heart is an amanah from Allah, and you are responsible for protecting it, even from the people you love. Sometimes the hardest pain comes from family, but that does not mean you must silently accept everything. The Prophet ﷺ, who Allah never allowed harm to continue simply because it came from someone close. He forgave, but he also created distance when necessary. You can honor your family while refusing to tolerate disrespect. You can keep ties of kinship without allowing abuse to break your spirit. You can love them without giving them permission to hurt you again and again. Forgiveness brings reward, but wisdom brings safety, and Allah wants both for you. So stand firm, speak gently, and set boundaries with dignity. Do not mistake patience for self-destruction. Do not mistake kindness for weakness, and do not mistake family for a free pass to harm your soul. When you protect your peace, you are honoring the heart that Allah entrusted you with,